Hi, okay, so welcome everybody. And again, sorry for not putting out a recording this past week. Again, it looks like I was coming down with COVID, not even knowing it. I was really, really tired when I was away. And then when I got back, just before I started driving up to Nelson, I just got hit with everything here. So luckily, it's just been most part, just a bad head cold. I don't know if you guys have had it, recently or something, but wasn't that bad, which I've been lucky because being a chronic asthmatic, I've always worried that if I got it and be like really, really bad, I might end up in the hospital or something. So anyway, kind of feel like I'm the last man standing. This is the kind of the first official time I've gotten it, even though I'm a frontline worker exposed to it all the time. Anyway, good karma to get away with not having had it for all this time. Anyhow, so welcome. And we're still continuing on with our diamond cutter stuff. Got a few more classes. So I'm going to be doing, I guess, after today, another 2 live classes before I go back to work. And I'm not too sure. I'll have to take a look how many classes are left in this particular course. There might only be maybe another 3 or 4 or something like that. We'll see, just more talks on emptiness. So what I'd like to do today is we'll start with their meditation like always. And then I'll present today's material. And then a friend of mine sent a very good and very difficult question to that they would like answered. And so I thought I've been just writing her and saying, I'll try and get back to you as quick as I can, but it's actually, she's asked amazing questions and it's going to be a big email. So I thought it might be easier just to actually answer it kind of like here off the top of my head. It's on emptiness. So it's not like some practice question or something completely personal where it will be irrelevant to anyone listening. So I'd like to end the class with that. So if people want to leave at that time, they can, because it's like the official class over, then the appendix, so to speak, or the after show or whatever, questions and answers after the movie, so to speak, will be this one question. I'd like to go on, probably be about 10 minutes of me answering it. So you're welcome to stick around for that if you'd like. Okay, so let's just start with Heart Sutra here, just to sort of establish our view on emptiness. Homage to Professor Wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Thus I've heard at one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and Mass Vulture's Mountain, together a great assembly of monks and nuns and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also, Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection wisdom, looking perfectly also at the 5 aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly, also at the 5 aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is none other than form, and form is also none other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics, not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There's no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There's no I element, so forth up to no mentality element, also up to no element of mental consciousness. There's no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, also forth up to no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing utterly beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly in the 3 times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, being manifest and complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal and unequal mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayatam Gata Gata Paragata Parasamgati Bodhisoha. Shariputra, Bodhisattva, a great being, should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration, said to Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, that had spoken well. Good, O son, and just like that. Since it's like that, just as you have revealed, in that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Sherpa, the spirit of Lakshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. Okay, so take a moment. Let's just maybe do, it's going to be hard for me to be stuffed up, but to do the 9-round breathing meditation. So just to sort of calm our mind. So it's 3 breaths through our left nostril. We can even visualize it. Like again, if you want to close the nostrils, but we've done it before, where we just focus our mind on the nostril and the breath going in and out. So 3 in through the left nostril, out through the right, getting rid of desirous attachment. 3 in through the right nostril, out through the left, getting rid of anger, reactivity, and so forth. And gentle breathing through both nostrils 3 times at the end. And hold the last inhalation at the navel for a moment. Okay, so just on your own time, just finishing up. Start to visualize ourselves seated in a wide open space, surrounded by all sentient beings. So visualizing again our mother on our left, father on our right, people we love the most behind us as support, people we like the least in front of us as objects of compassion and healing. And then moving outwards in circles from there, people from all over the world, all human beings, all beings of the animal realm, the natural ecosystems here, all beings from the spirit world. Think of the different astral, ethereal, elemental planes, and so forth. Celestial beings, different gods and demigods, and countless beings in lower states of rebirth. The prana beings are hungry ghost beings, and hell beings, and so forth. And if you sort of build up from there, even parallel world systems and so forth, you can just feel that there's almost an infinite number of beings here, just countless sentient beings in states of suffering and confusion. But we're all together here as a family, so everyone's all kind of blissed out and happy and ready to meditate together. So very simple today, as we're doing with the diamond cutter for the merit field. We'll just visualize beautiful blue dome sky above us, and in front of us, put a Shakyamuni in the sky, like a big harvest moon or a sun. And he's just very simply will be floating in the sky. You can put him on a lion throne if you want, but sometimes I think it's just easier if he's just sort of in lotus position in the sky, just kind of like he's floating. He's made out of beautiful golden energy, wearing the 3 robes of a monk. And he's got a begging bowl of medicinal nectar in his left hand. His right hand is in the subduing mudra, palm open, touching the earth. And then in his heart, sort of his higher angelic form, the Abhyam couple of Conqueror Vajradhar and Vajradhatu Ishvari in sexual embrace. Beautiful blue energy bodies, blue light like a blue diamond or a blue sapphire, wearing crowns and silks and so forth, jewelry. And he's holding a bell in his left hand, Dorje in his right. She's got a curved knife, Drigu chopping knife cleaver in her right hand, and left hand has a skull cup with medicinal nectar, and she's embracing him, sitting in his lap. So they represent three beings here that are basically one being, represent all holy beings, all light beings, the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, as well as all of our teachers and gurus. Okay, we can just take refuge here. I and all sentient beings until we achieve enlightenment. Go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment. Go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment. Go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. So generating refuge and bodhicitta here. Yeah, just for sort of making our main focal point here, the three jewels as refuge. So we're turning to them. As Alexander Berzin would say, sort of true direction or safe direction, walking the safe path, going towards the light, is taking refuge, and mind of enlightenment here, that everything we're doing is out of love and compassion, desire to awaken ourselves and all others. Bodhicitta motivation here. So upon saying that, we can visualize just soft white light and energy coming down from the heart of Buddha Shakyamuni here, from the hearts of Vajradhara and Vajradhara. And this light, if we're just all sort of seated in the shadows here, we're just all kind of dark audience in the movie theater. All of a sudden, it's just like the spotlight comes on us, and everything's lit up. We can just feel that our bodies here, us and all sentient beings, becomes completely luminous and pure. White light and energy or nectar, if you like, come down, just flushing out our bodies, making them crystal clear. All dirt, stain, ash, oil, yucky stuff, all garbage is coming out of our body, our subtle body, our mind, flushed out, made clean. Everything's heavy, now it's light. And now the light and energy turn to a golden color here. And this is the empowerment energy here. First purification, empowerment. It's people receiving, they're downloading all the teachings of Sutra and Tantra. It's the 5 paths to enlightenment, 10 bodhisattva bhumis. All these things are just sort of going into us, feel like being poured. It's kind of like a digital nectar almost going into our bodies here. So we're all filled with golden light, like little suns here in the audience. Getting powered up like in a video game. Feeling stronger, more wise, more compassionate. Considering the 4 measurables, may everyone be happy, may everyone be free from misery, may no one ever be separated from their happiness, may everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. And generate love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And finally, just before we make the mandal offering here and stuff and meditate a little bit, we just do our practice, our very Buddhist practice of the 7 limbs. So prostration, this is the offering, confession, rejoicing, Blessing Buddhists to stay and to teach, and dedication here. So prostration from our heart, showing respect and devotion to the three jewels, to Buddha Shakyamuni. Offering, opening our hearts to the mind of generosity here. And send out billions of flowers or candles, beautiful things. Confession and rejoicing going together. So standing up and acknowledging and owning who you are, all the bad stuff, all the things you've done or failed to do, or should have done in your life and in past lives. And just in front of the Buddhas and all sentient beings, say you're going to try harder and overcome these things and scrub them clean and get over them, let them go, make up for what you did. That you're sort of vowing to keep growing and progressing and self-overcoming. And then rejoicing in goodness, everything, all the good stuff you've done, all the goodness stuff you've done so far in the path, the progress you've made so far, and all the goodness in the world from all sentient beings every day, as well as all holy beings, are the ultimate example, the holy beings and light beings, all their goodness and virtue that we're trying to emulate and embody here. We can hold up in our hands a lion throne. We send that up, and an eight-spoke Dharma chakra we can send up. They both sort of dissolve into Buddha Shakyamuni. And we just ask, please, Buddha, always stay with us and always teach us and guide us. So I'm in a dark room, and you've just come in with the flashlight to show me out of this dark maze. It's like the labyrinth with the Minotaur. And you know the way out with the flashlight. So you're just saying to Buddha, please always stay with me. I'll hold your hand, or you give me a little rope, a little leash, like the little kids in the mall that have to hold the leash in the backpack there, or whatever, for with their mom. Just like, please always stay with me. Please always continue to guide me. Don't leave me alone here in the dark of my own delusions and selfishness and confusion and so forth. So we always request the Buddhas to stay and to guide us. And now dedicating. Let's dedicate everything we're doing even this morning for the awakening of all sentient beings. Every good thing I do, may it be for the benefit of all. Okay. Candle offering, so holding from our heart here, awakening universe, beautiful, enlightened, sort of pure universe, all beautiful things, sort of held right at heart level that we're offering up to Buddha Shakyamuni here. And we can visualize the Vedic universe if you'd like, with Mount Meru and all the beautiful things. The ground sprinkled with perfume, flowers, a great mountain, four lands, sun and moon, seen as the Buddha land, and offered that smell beings enjoy such pure lands. We send forth this jewel mandala to you, precious gurus. Om Idam Guru Rana Mandalaka Mirtiyami. Okay, so finally, again, just before we dissolve and meditate, beautiful golden lights coming down as a blessing again. Again, circle of reciprocity, we offer and we get blessings in response. The blessings help open our heart that we're able to make more offerings. We get more blessings. It just goes on and on. And goes deeper and deeper, kind of like a spiral or a corkscrew, sort of deeper into our heart, our soul, by doing this practice. Golden light coming into us here, nectars. For the dissolution, let's visualize Buddha Shakyamuni. Yes, please grant us your blessings of body, speech, and mind. Precious Guru. So Buddha Shakyamuni starts sending up beautiful golden light in all directions. Goes to all sort of different 10 directions, all world systems, and it starts to come back sort of condensing inward into his heart. And he starts to melt and dissolve inward into the divine couple, Vajradhar and Vajradhar. So they're sending a beautiful light out. Now let's focus at our heart here, just like we've been doing this last little time. We visualize right at our heart center in the indestructible drop. Oh, subtle mind, we visualize a beautiful little crystal Buddha. And visualize this Buddha Shakyamuni. And again, the smaller he is, the better he is. If you can visualize him, if you want, you can visualize him the size of a grape. Or if you're a little bit better, visualizing as a sunflower seed, or if you're really good, a size of a sesame seed or even mustard seed, really, really small. And of course, wherever your mind is, that's where prana goes. And so we putting everything into heart chakra there, but that's another story entirely. But that's just for ourselves right now. Just put beautiful crystal Buddha made out of diamond, like diamond Buddha at our heart, representing our most subtle mind and its empty quality. So our Buddha nature, developing and natural Buddha nature that we have. So beautiful blue light from Vajradhar and Vajradhar sort of comes, dissolves, just like laser beam coming down into our heart, sort of activating it, making it glow, sparkle, beautiful diamond in our heart. And we request, please grant us your blessings. And may come to the crown of our head, sort of float down. They're made out of beautiful blue energy or light, so they can instantly dissolve into our crown. Very, very small, they're about the size of a sunflower seed too. And they descend our central channel. And when they go into our little diamond Buddha, just feel that they dissolve right into it. Sort of goes blue for a second, zzz, and then just becomes a diamond again. Just feel that all the Buddha's blessings, all their power, wisdom, and compassion gone directly into us, our mind and their mind. Our diamond mind, their diamond mind are the same, becoming unified here, and we receive their blessings. And just meditating on this beautiful little diamond Buddha at our hearts here. Just feel that this little diamond Buddha is always with us, has always been with us, and will always be with us. And this little diamond Buddha is really who we are. And the last instance, in the final analysis, sort of boiling down the soup, this is what's left. The indivisible remainder, so to speak. This is who we really are, this beautiful little diamond. No matter what we do in our life, however good or however bad we do, this is always the same here. No matter how ignorant and asleep we are and how much we forget, how much we stop practicing Buddhism, this little diamond Buddha is always here. Okay, let's come out of meditation here. I really like that meditation. Rinpoche taught us that. And I think, if I'm trying to remember when that was, I don't think he's done it a lot, Zasep Rinpoche, but I remember he did meditation, that meditation and another one over a weekend at Ganden in Toronto. I think it was in 2000. It was before we left Toronto the first time. And there was two meditations we did for the weekend. That was one of them. The other one was just watching your breath as a form of impermanence on death meditation, which he's done before, where where you breathe in, you're feeling like you're alive, and you breathe out, you're feeling like you're dying, you're getting closer to your death. So we started that, so the more, not pessimistic, but more very realistic, very sort of harder meditation to do. And then the second one was this time in Buddha at your heart being the emptiness of your mind. The thing is, one is the meditation of being mortal, one is the meditation on technically your quote unquote immortality, you can say. So it's really, really beautiful and very powerful. Anyway, pardon me. There we go. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Is this okay? I've got this kind of horrible voice. Okay, great, because I, just still being a little sick and stuff and raspy and so forth. So, okay, great. This week, the class is on two things. One is just on predictions on how long Buddhism will last in the world, which is always kind of interesting. This is when everything gets all like occulty and conspiracy theories about when the world's going to end or when Buddhism is going to end and stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff like that, but that's at the end. The first thing we'll talk about is the four bodies of a Buddha, or the four kayas. Or in other words, what is a Buddha? What is a Buddha? And this is very important. Years ago, Rinpoche in the 1980s, he gave for 2 years, he did these long week retreats or a weekend, I can't remember what it was, where he just taught on the Mahayana Tantra Shastra, which is this book here by Maitreya, Changeless Nature. Maybe some of you remember having done the class with Rinpoche, even in the 80s, or in Vancouver in the early 2000s, which we did. It's a commentary on this book. This is an excellent book. This is the old 1980s translation of it. There's better ones now. There's actually, I think, a few translations, but it's a good one to read because it's basically the whole Maitreya written, and of course it's dictated by Maitreya to Arya Sangha, of course, one of the greatest Buddhist saints and scholars. And Maitreya, the future Buddha, fifth universal Buddha and Buddha of love and kindness, is just talking about what a Buddha is. So this is actually important, and I almost feel sometimes Buddhist centers, none of us do this, of course. It's kind of like when you first come in and you get the protocol on how to sit meditation, someone should just give you this pamphlet with the envelope on a donation of what is a Buddha. Why? Because that's what you're trying to become. And I always think it's funny that when, like when I started, it was like that too. It's like, oh, I want to be Buddha. I mean, I'd be Buddha. And it's like, what's a Buddha? And everyone's like, man, I don't know. And it's just like, we're here every week and we don't even know what we're doing. Like, we're trying to become this thing. Well, what is this thing? What does it actually mean to be a Buddha? Oh, Buddha means someone who's woken up. Well, what does that mean? One who is no longer asleep, one who's realized ultimate reality, one who has no more suffering. I mean, there's all these things, but there's also, when we're working with Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism, we're talking about when you become a Buddha, you're basically becoming a quote unquote another form of life, another kind of being altogether. You're basically, that's what's interesting about Buddhism, is technically it's anti-humanism. Is we're going to see with this is that basically, we're so used to, in a Western point of view, in our Judeo-Christian heritage, the limit you have is always the limit of finitude, which is the limit of being human. There's a difference between, if we're a Christian, Judeo-Christian culture, between God, our creator, and creation. Creation can never be the creator. Creator can never be creation. There's a fundamental dualism. That's an article of faith in this sort of culture or faith tradition that we have. So you can't become God. You can't go into a Catholic church and say, well, my plan is to become God. They're just like, hey, dude, wrong business. Go to the New Age place down the street. It's just not part of the tradition of the culture. So what you're always taught, this is, a very Jewish idea, is that how to become the just person, the best human possible, how we can become a quote unquote imitation of Christ. And said, but we can't become Christ, we can't become God, we become the most perfect human being we can. But of course, we are not God. We're not infinite, we're not omnipotent, we're not omniscient, and we have the limitations that we ourselves are mortal beings of flesh and blood. So we have to work within that horizon, so to speak. Now we get to a Buddhist standpoint where we're not dealing with finitude, but infinitude. In other words, this is a big debate in medieval philosophy. It's like, where do virtues end? Like, where is our human limit of virtues? How good can we be before there's the drop-off point? Then there's the supreme goodness of God. Like, where's the wall? Like, how generous can we become? How just can we, how wise can we become before there's that human limit, right? Then you have someone like Duns Scotus, who's a few weirdos who basically say that there is no limit, that we could keep moving the goalposts all the way till we hit God, right? And that's why a lot of his positions were deemed heretical in the Christian canon. But Buddhism actually has this standpoint, is that technically there is no limit. Because of karma and emptiness, anything is possible. So the only limits we have, or structures we have, are ones we've imposed on ourselves. And so technically we can move those goalposts. We can actually overcome our human situation, which is sort of unique. And that's why what's interesting is that you notice from a Judeo-Christian point of view, everything is human-centered, right? Like, it's the whole thing in Genesis that we're given into the world and to husband the world, take care of the world, but it's kind of like we're the center point, right? Human reality is the standpoint by which we judge everything. We're the show, we're it. Human, we're made in the image of God. It's kind of all about us. And that's why Hegel says that, the earth is no longer the center of the universe, the sun is, but the earth is, quote unquote, the metaphysical center of the universe. In other words, human reality is what counts. That's what gives us the values and standards to measure things. Well, what we do as Buddhism, you can see, we're just one life form out of 6 different realms. So we can talk about human reality, all this that matters is being human, but then let's say you put hell beings in the same room. They're like, dude, hey, like, it ain't all about you. It's about me, whatever, in a lake of fire, and monsters chasing me down the street or something. Like, we got a totally different situation down there. You know what I mean? So, first world problems up in the human world, right? Like, the way we see things is completely different. And then, of course, in the human realm, or in even the spirit world, they have a completely different form of embodiment, different perspective, different values and stuff. But all of us can, along that line of our virtues or perfections, can keep going and become a Buddha. So what is a Buddha? Here we go. So Buddha, in a lot of ways, I always say it's funny, is when you start studying them, they're not a human being. So they take the form of humans, but they're not humans. The closest thing we can say, because from a Judeo-Christian point of view, we've got God. Let's say if we're Christian, there's God, then there's the Holy Spirit, it's the Trinity, and Christ. Of course, if you're, and then you have angels as well. If you're Jewish or Muslim, you've got God and angelic beings, right? They don't have an intermediary of a Christ figure, and they don't talk about the Holy Spirit as much. There's other things. But here, if we don't have a God in Buddhism, if technically all beings have Buddha nature and all beings are divine, there's not a vertical axis, it's just a horizontal axis. It's sort of a plane of immanence, so to speak. And then the issue is, where are you on that line of immanence? Like, if Buddhas are here on the plane, everyone else is sort of equal. We all have Buddha nature, but the issue is, where are you along the scale? How close are you to that perfection, total perfection? And the weird thing is, the plane's kind of tipped. We're all heading or rolling. It's like marbles. We're all slowly rolling down to the good side, right? To getting enlightened, right? So that's what the Buddhas are there. This was an imminent thing, right? So what Geshe Michael, what I liked is he started using the term, I think it's correct. It's a term that we can use as Westerners, is that when we talk about as being angels, the thing is, when we think of angels, we always think that they're lesser than God, right? So if you could just imagine angels kind of being manifestations of God, then you get a little bit closer to what a Buddha is, because we see angels in our tradition, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, Islamic tradition, angels are messengers, angels bless, angels convey teachings, angels are protectors, angels are helpers. Angels help you along your path. They're guides in a lot of ways. So in a lot of ways, on a functional level, I think it's a good metaphor to use, so to speak, right? But you don't want to see them as something lesser, that somehow, if to see a Buddha as an angel, you kind of have to see them as divine, right? It's the same thing. Okay, so anyway, that's a little bit of an introduction there. So we talk about the 4 bodies of a Buddha. So basically, we can talk about, there's different ways of dividing it up. We can divide it into 2, or we can divide it into 4. So the first division that we have is basically what we call the Dharmakaya, or the mind of a Buddha, and then what we call Rupakaya, or the body of a Buddha, Rupa being the body, right? So or a form body. So there's 2, let's just talk about the Rupakaya first. And I know, the people that are attending here in person, I know you guys have heard this a million times, but this is for all the people out there who don't know this stuff. When we're doing Tantra, we're always talking about kayas and stuff, or bodies. So the first one is the one we're probably more familiar with, which is the Nirmanakaya, or often termed as an emanation body. And it is called Tulku in Tibetan. The Sanskrit, I think really the connotation, if I'm not mistaken, is basically avatar. So if you think avatar, then nowadays, because the James Cameron movie with the blue guys running around, or video games, or Mark Zuckerberg's, I would say, nightmarish plan for us to all be in the metaverse, but that's another story, and watch this video get deleted on YouTube for me saying that. But we understand with computers having an avatar means nowadays, right? I mean, when we play video games, or even if you're doing, I have to do all these online learning, corporate learnings every year with Air Canada, and I get like a little avatar, or like this kind of stuff. So we know what that means, how it's almost like a form body sent out as your representative on one level, right? And it could be anything. You can pick your avatar. So a Tulku, and this is what's interesting, is that we use the term Tulku in the particular cultural context of Tibetan Buddhism with teachers, Tulkus. In other words, they are seen as avatars of a particular Buddha or their past incarnation. When we recognize small children as having being the reincarnation of their past, of a past master, let's say a boy or a girl. But it's interesting that we always say it's a reincarnation, but technically the term Tulku means almost like an emanation. So it's basically, we're finding an avatar of a Buddha. It's kind of interesting. So it's a body that's sent out. So the Buddha itself is in deep meditation and then emanates out this body, okay? Now, this body is you can see if you have a connection to it. The emanation appears spontaneously whenever circumstances are right. In other words, when a person's karma, virtue warrant it. Like the moon can reflect in all waters in the world at once if the circumstances are right. So basically, a Buddha is in meditation on emptiness directly, and they're constantly in that. They're permanently in meditation on emptiness directly as their Dharmakaya mind. And then at the same time, their bodhicitta, or absolute love and compassion for all beings, is the motivation that they're sending out billions of these emanations or bodies to whoever needs help on their Dharma path. So this emanation or Tulku can be anything. That's what's interesting, is we always see it as people, but it's basically anything that will perform a Dharma function to help heal or educate somebody. So again, if you're down and you see a beautiful flower, it helps you get back into a positive spiritual space. That flower might be an emanation of Buddha's mind. It might be a Tokor emanation body. And if you have pure view, you'll sort of think that way anyway. But Buddhas can appear, you can think that basically could be anybody in life. Buddhas might be appearing as your mother or people at work, your pet, people you run into, you don't know. And this is why it's good to have peer review. One of the reasons I might have said earlier in Buddhist logic that one of the sort of ethical reasons they end up showing that from a Prasangika point of view, you can never know other people's minds in a real way because people have different takes and positions on things. If that's the case, you won't judge people, you won't get angry, and you won't reject them. Why is that important? All these Buddha emanations that you can't recognize, these tokus are trying to interact with you and teach you something. So if you're being judgmental and rejecting people all the time, you're always pushing this help away from yourself, which is interesting. So it's almost like opening up or welcoming in all these chances to learn on the spiritual path by seeing that Buddhas are at any moment emanating out all these different forms to help beings, and especially how to help you. So that's what an emanation body is. And when you are a Buddha, you'll be able to do this. When you reach the first bodhisattva bhumi, very joyful, I think you can emanate something like 10 forms simultaneously, be in 10 places at once. So it's like dream bodies, like when you're dreaming and you're running around doing stuff in a dream, it's the same kind of thing, sending out these sort of forms. So the Buddha, they're countless, they're beyond number. You're just doing this for all sentient beings. Second one is Longku, which is the Sambhogakaya, or often translated, this is the second part of the Rupakaya, which is translated as the quote unquote enjoyment body. And oftentimes you could sort of say beatific body, celestial body, or even quote unquote angel body. This is the body the Buddha sees when he or she looks in the mirror, so to speak, in their paradise or in their pure land. This stays in the pure land and never leaves. So basically, when you become enlightened, all your virtue manifests as absolutely pure conception, pure appearance, and you become an angel in an angelic environment that you never leave because of your pure karma. This is what means to have, when you're enlightened, the enjoyment body. You're enjoying, you have a pure body, pure actions, pure enjoyments, pure mind. Everything is pure and beautiful, just like a paradise that you're in. So Buddhists don't leave that. So they don't, to help you. It's not like the angel's like, okay, Matthew's in trouble again. I got to leave this gorgeous place and go down to Nelson. Oh my God, it's cold. It sucks there. And then floating around down there. I help him out again. And then whoop, I go back into my Pure Land. They never leave that place. They're there. They're just emanating out forms to the different realms to help all beings, right? So the five attributes of Sambhogakaya form of the Buddha. So this is the sort of five qualities of this sort of angel body or angel form of the Buddha. Number one is the place. They are always in the same place of this Pure Land. They say they will never leave that until all sentient beings reach full awakening, which is, who knows when that'll be. Then that's another philosophical question. What happens to these Pure Lands once everybody's enlightened? Anyway, whatever, that's like how many angels dance on a pin, right? But that's one thing. So they're always in these Pure Lands, celestial realms. Two, the circle of the people around them are those who have seen emptiness directly, of course, with bodhicitta. But I mean, possibly even arhats, I'm wondering they might as well. They're certainly in touch with the Sobhavakaya, or emptiness quality of the Buddhas, because they've seen emptiness directly. But anyway, bodhisattvas and above, so bodhisattvas on the first bhumi, first bodhisattva ground, in other words, they've seen emptiness directly with a mind of bodhicitta, are the ones that interact with Sambhogakaya Buddhas, okay? In other words, normal beings like us, or at least speaking for myself, me, suffering samsaric beings cannot see these Buddhas. So which means if you have a vision in your meditation of green Tara floating in front of you, What are you seeing? This is the test question here. Are you seeing a avatar, a Nirmanakaya Buddha, or are you seeing a Sambhogakaya Buddha? It's an important distinction. Okay, I'll answer for you guys. You're seeing the emanation body of a Buddha, which is still absolutely amazing, but you're not in a Pure Land. You have to see emptiness directly for that to be the case. So when people say, oh my God, I did that Vipassana retreat in Green Tar Kingdom and I dream, I think I'm enlightened. It's like, that's amazing, great. I'll buy you a Starbucks coffee, but you are not in the Pure Land. Don't delude yourself, okay? That's a great attainment, but don't get too excited. It's a real, you have to see emptiness directly to actually see a Sambhogakaya Buddha. But what's interesting is once you see emptiness directly with bodhicitta motivation. So we're doing all this meditation emptiness, particularly if you're doing tantric meditations emptiness, which are very fast and efficacious, you will be in visionary contact with angels. Isn't that amazing? You will. That's guaranteed to happen. So in the Pure Land, it's just bodhisattvas, or in other words, like once you have that level and you're in communication, it's basically like you're in another realm, almost like an astral travel, so to speak, once you have seeing emptiness directly as a bodhisattva, a visionary contact with Buddhas directly. And they appear like that. If you read, there's a good book called Delok, or Delok is how it's written, but it's called Delok. It's the diary of Chagdatopa Rinpoche's mom, who's the famous Lama and astral traveler, called a Delok. It's usually women in Tibet that would go into these trances and they'd die, they'd leave their body be like clinically dead, and they'd travel to Pure Lands and get teachings and come back. But she has all the descriptions of going to these Pure Lands, and it's just as amazing and as wacky as you could imagine. It's beautiful, where she goes to Ulakota and meets Green Tar, and it's like, oh my God, like I can't believe it. Like, and she's always with White Tara, just like Dante and Virgil's. She has a guide to get her to the Pure Land, and she shows up, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this place. And like Green Tar is made out of pure emerald or something, like this complete unbelievable angel, and it's like, it's incredible. And all the descriptions, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's amazing. So that's what a Pure Land is like when you read the descriptions of these famous saints and they give it to you. But the point is, it's another place. This isn't a place you're going to run into here somewhere on earth. It's a place that you have to get to in your mind, realizing emptiness. Okay, so the third thing is they have the 32 major and minor signs of an enlightened being. 4 is Dharma, their activity is Mahayana. So they only teach Mahayana Buddhism. They teach unity of karma and emptiness, wisdom, and bodhicitta, wisdom, realization, and bodhicitta. So the bodhicitta, the whole sort of Mahayana framework is the Buddha they teach. And time is, again, just like I said, the fifth thing is they won't withdraw until the end of samsara. In other words, these Pure Lands are open and being manifest until samsara is over. Just quickly, I will read you the 32 major signs from this book. So all Buddhas have these qualities or signs when you see them as a Sambhogakaya form. 1, so I'm going to read them fairly quick here because we don't have time. 1, it says his, of course, it's a little bit sexist here because it's all male, but technically female too. And of course, we know that Buddhas are beyond gender because they are empty. They have no structural gender here. They appear however, so they can appear as men or women or neither or both. But in this case, so we're just going to say his, I say his or her here. His or her feet are perfectly level and marked with Dharma chakras or Dharma wheels. 2, they are broad and ankles are unobtrusive. 3, the fingers and toes are long. 4, digits of the hand and feet are connected by a webbed hands and feet, which is interesting. 5, his or her skin is soft and flesh fine and youthful. 6, his or her body has 7 elevated parts. 7, his or her calves are like those of an antelope. 8, his or her private parts are recessed like an elephant's. 9, his or her torso is like a lion's. 10, his or her clavicles are not hollow but well filled with flesh. 11, the tops of the shoulders are elegantly rounded. 12, arms are soft, round, and even. 13, arms are long. 14, his or her perfectly pure body is surrounded by a light aura. 15, his or her neck is immaculate as a conch. 16, cheeks are magnificent as a lion's. 17, she has 40 teeth, equal numbers on each jaw. 18, the teeth are very pure and closely set. 19, the teeth are immaculate, evenly aligned. 20, the eye teeth are perfect and excellently white. 21, the tongue is long, unending, and inconceivable. 22, he or she possesses the most perfect faculty of taste. 23, the spontaneously born one has a voice as sweet as that of a Kalavinka bird or Brahma's melody. 24, the supreme of beings has beautiful eyes like blue lotuses. 25, the eyelashes are handsome like an ox. 26, with its immaculate white urna hair, the face is handsome to behold. They have the little curl here on their brow of the hair. 27, his or her head is adorned with a mount, so they have a nishnishna to show superior brain development. That's a symbol of that. 28, his or her skin is pure and fine. 29, his or her skin is golden hued, but then of course they can appear as a blue Buddha or a green one or a red one or whatever. Okay. 30, the hairs on their body are exceedingly fine and soft, one in each pore, curling through the right and upwards. 31, the hair is impeccable with a deep blue gem, like a deep blue gem. So interesting. So like a blue-black hair. And then 32, as well-rounded as a perfect Nyagrota tree, the ever good one, the incomparable great sage, has the strength of Narayana in his or her firm body. These 32 marks are ablaze with light completely beyond the grasp of concept. Lord Buddha, our teacher, has taught them as being the marks of the Lord of men or women or humans or whatever beings. So there you go. It's almost like an alien. You're thinking that's like, wow, why do Buddhas have like the huge long? Now, of course, what's metaphorical is that, like Rinpoche said, is like because they've taught, beautiful Dharma, they have a long, like these are all symbolic forms. So what's interesting to say, just as I finish here, the Sambhogakaya Buddha, when they appear, their body is completely symbolic. So that's when you look at any of the Buddhas, the form they take itself is a teaching. So if you look at Green Tar, the fact that she's green shows that she's the purification of the wind element. The fact that she's got one foot out shows that she's about to step up and help you. The fact that she's got the three jewels at her heart show you for the heart. Like, in other words, everything about them, their body and mind, is to teach you Dharma. So when you go to the Pure Land, she's not going to be just in a pair of jeans, like there with friends, like, hey, like, you know what I mean? Like just like a regular person, right? Like the point is you're going to see them as an angel, and their form itself will be teaching you something. You know, just like when you see saints or statues, they're always like this showing their teaching, like in medieval churches. The angels themselves, their form is a teaching. So the message and the medium are the same thing. Okay. So the Rupakaya here is produced by good deeds. Its main purpose is work to others. And then there is the Nowa Nikyu, which is the Sobhavakaya, which is the essence body, emptiness of the other three bodies. Ultimate nature of the body is their emptiness. So then this is broken. So this is basically we talked about two kayas here. The other two go together, which is the emptiness of the Buddha's mind and body, which is the Sobhavakaya, which is translated as entity body or nature body. In other words, it's the natureless nature of the Buddha, right? And the Dharmakaya, or wisdom truth body of the Buddhas, being the omniscient mind of the Buddha, okay? So the emptiness of the Buddha's mind is the emptiness they've always had, even when they were a person like us, to Buddha's sensation, the end of their bad thoughts, end of their ignorance. And 3, Yeshe Chukwa is the Jnana Dharmakaya, wisdom body, the omniscient mind of Buddha's ability to see all beings, all things. So, so basically, the wisdom truth body of their mind. This is another, maybe I should talk a little bit about more next week because we're running out of time here. But the other kaya, as I said, is the emptiness of all the other bodies, that they're interrelated, but also that they don't have any existence in and of themselves. That's the Sobhavakaya, or entity or nature body of the Buddhas. The Dharmakaya is the omniscient mind of the Buddha. So this mind is always meditating on emptiness. It sees the true truth simultaneously. So it is always in a direct, deep jhana meditation on emptiness, and at the same time perceives all conventional realities simultaneously. So it sees emptiness and all individual things in the universe at once, simultaneously, non-conceptual, which means without any mediation, any concept or language. It sees it completely, perfectly the same time, which is impossible for us to understand. I can't see this and emptiness at the same time. It's either one or the other. And I can't see emptiness anyway, but I'm just saying we can't do that, but a Buddha can. A Buddha can see everything being blank and then me holding this mala at the exact same time. And at the same time, they have bodhicitta, complete bodhicitta, which means everything they're perceiving is with love and compassion. And at the same time, they can be sending an emanation body to love, to teach, and to guide what they're perceiving. Okay. Now then the Jnana Dharmakaya, like that's the omniscient mind of the Buddha, but also part of the Dharmakaya is the fact because the Buddha is meditating in emptiness, they have a mind of complete cessation. They have no bad thoughts. They see everything as being uncontaminated and pure and blissful. And that's the end of their samsara. So then the final conclude the class here today is in the Sutra, Buddha says twice that his physical body, quote unquote, has no marks. So he's talking about those in the Dhammapada Sutra, the 32 major marks, and he says he has no marks. So what does that mean? Is that, of course, because Buddha can see emptiness directly all the time, but also everything simultaneously, the Buddha will see his or her 32 major marks, but at the same time see emptiness. So those things don't inherently exist. That's the point that he's making. So in other words, even when you become a Buddha is empty. It's not inherently existing as some kind of absolute principle or God. That's a lot, my goodness. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock now. I'm gonna finish, but I'm gonna, if you'd like to stay, the people that are here, feel free to stay because I'm going to answer my friend's question on emptiness. But if you just kind of brain is full, need to press the eject button, feel free to go. Okay. But that's the end of this particular class here on the 4 kayas. And again, if people have questions about it, they can bring it up next week or something. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick dedication on this class here. May we, by blessings of all holy beings, truth of karma, power of our pure spirit attention, all of our dharma wishes be fulfilled, and may we be able to realize the 4 kayas of the Buddha, reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So let's dedicate all of our studying of the 4 kayas of what it means to be a Buddha to really inspire us and help us collect all the virtue that creates the all the sort of the good merit that creates the bodies of the Buddha, the Sambhogakaya and the emanation body, and all the wisdom training on emptiness to realize the Dharmakaya quality of Buddha's mind. Okay, so that's that. Thank you, everybody. And the question my friend asked was, what I like is I feel like we used to do this to our professors. They give a class and then the next week we'd say, hey, you said in last class, blah, blah, blah. And they say, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. And then could you explain it? And they're like, oh my God, did I really say that? I don't know what I was talking about. So I feel the same way here. Good thing about my friend. It's like, she asks us like, did I really say that last week? I didn't actually go back and listen to myself. I was too lazy, but I'm sure I did say this, is that I made the statement about emptiness. Meditating emptiness, I see an absence, but this absence itself is, quote, luminous or emancipatory and therapeutic, hence its positive content. So of course that comes off as just sort of gobbledygook. So what my friend was saying is, what does this really mean to say these things? So of course, when we're talking about meditating on emptiness being an absence, of course, it is the lack of inherent existence, right? So how could, in other words, how could this absence be something like luminous? How could it be emancipatory? How can, in other words, it sort of liberate you from suffering, liberate you from pain, liberate problems? And how is it therapeutic? Well, all those things kind of go together. And then how is that a positive content? So how could something that be an absent be something positive? Well, emptiness, if I can sort of answer this, emptiness is, of course, a negative phenomena. It's the absence of something. So this is a big thing. What we call it is a quote unquote non-affirming negative. So if an affirming negative in Buddhist logic is if I say I've got two bowls, one of them has a marble, there's a red bowl and a blue bowl. One of them has the marble in it. The red one does not have the marble in it. What am I saying? The blue one has the marble in it. So that's what they call an affirming negative. I'm saying something is not, but by affirming something's not, I'm affirming something else is. So when we call a non-affirming negative, we just say something's, it's not implying anything else. It's just a negative, it's an absence. So in other words, the business is closed. I went bankrupt. That, you know, so if someone comes, hey Matthew, I want to have noodles at your restaurant. No, I went bankrupt, it's closed. So you're open next week? No, I'm not open next week. Okay, can I get takeout? No, you can't get takeout. I went bankrupt, the thing is closed. Okay, that's fine. Okay, can I make an anniversary appointment? No, it's the business is closed. It's bankrupt, it's closed down. So it's the same thing. In other words, it's an absence. What we are saying is that inherent existence, or existence that is unrelated to anything else, does not exist. It is not there. It's not part of what we're talking about. It's never been there. It's sort of like, we don't have to remove it because it's never been there in the first place. So that's why we say that things do not exist from their own side as being somehow separate or not interrelated. So that's a negative thing. Now, how can that be positive? Well, what's interesting about emptiness is always not only just empty of itself, but it's related to things. Everything has an emptiness to it. So there's just emptiness in general, but there's also the emptiness of my watch, the emptiness of my little notebook, the emptiness of my iPhone. So there's as many emptinesses as there are things. But at the same time, it's just the same emptiness, right? The lack of inherent existence, the lack of unrelated existence, the lack, in other words, impossible existence isn't there or is removed. But conventional reality and ultimate reality, or things and their emptiness, go together. So what's interesting is that Chandrakirti always talks about this. One Nagarjuna too, because Chandrakirti is commenting on Nagarjuna. It's because of emptiness that things are able to function. So things exist in a functional way for Buddhism. We say that something exists when it can do something, right? So how is a hammer? Because I can use it to bang things. How do I know is a cup? Because I can pour something in it, drink out of it. So existence is always something that's functional. So which means it has to be able to create effects or be related to other things, right? That's how I know it exists. If it can't do these things, it can't exist, right? So if this wasn't interrelated, couldn't be a cup, and I'd pour coffee and the coffee would be pouring here on the floor. I'm like, what? I can't get it in the cup. The cup wouldn't work as a cup. I wouldn't even know what it would be at that point. It wouldn't even really exist. So it's because of emptiness, even though emptiness is an absence, it's almost like, I don't want to talk this way because it might end up being confusing, but it's because it's almost like the magic quality of emptiness, you could say, is emptiness is what allows things to perform a function, because it allows things to interrelate. Nothing's separate. And so things can machinically, so to speak, function. It's because of emptiness that we have cause and effect, right? It's because cause and effect is one of the big relationships we can talk about. The other relationship, let's say, is wholes and parts. Emptiness allows wholes and parts to work together, allows us to make sets, allows us to make relationships. Emptiness allows cause and effect to function. Otherwise, it wouldn't. Like David Hume, the famous philosopher, said, we can't see what cause and effect is. I mean, all we see is this and then that. What's the link? We can't see that there's a link, right, in our experience, but we know that there is a link, right? There is a causal link between things. Emptiness allows that to happen. So what's funny is that emptiness, we could say, is pure potentiality, right? It is basically the fact that there is emptiness or an absence of all things means things are infinitely, or whatever you want, almost their nature is naturelessness, right? They don't have a nature, so they can be any nature, have any nature as a nature, which means emptiness allows for creativity, right? It allows it, so we can talk about it as pure potentiality on one level. Now, it's just an absence. The problem is when we start putting positive qualities onto emptiness, we're making a mistake. That's we're talking, when we start talking that way, we're talking more in terms of conventional reality, in terms of thingness, the thingness of things, right? But emptiness allows that to happen. So emptiness is creative on that level in a certain way, if we can think about it, because it always goes hand in hand with things, right? So that's the positive content of a negative phenomenon. See, then semantically, we end up getting into mistakes here, and everyone in flaws, you're making a mistake, you know, but I'm just saying, this is where words start to fail us here, is when we're talking about the truths and the two truths, why they have to be sort of experienced rather than sort of argued in a lot of ways. But emptiness isn't separate from conventional reality. The two truths go together. So even when I'm perceiving emptiness directly, the moment I come out of it, I'm back in conventional reality. And I see that they go together. I see conventional reality, as karma, as interrelationships, as conventional imputation. And emptiness allows that. So this is always the problem, is we don't see this, which is why we don't understand karma, and we don't understand how reality works and why we're suffering. That's why we're in samsara, is we haven't had the experience of how this works, the machine of reality, of how emptiness is created, how it creates things. That's why Jigme Lingpa, that famous Nyingma Lama in Territon, has the greatest quote. It's in Dan Klein's book. I don't know which of his books he said this in, but he said, because there is birth from the birthless, living beings are confused. Because there is birth from the birthless, living beings are confused. In other words, because the many come from the one, because positivity or creation comes from an absence, something comes from nothing, because, you know, cause and effects come out of nothing, that's confusing. But it's not confusing. That's the way it has to be. That's the only way it ever could be for anything to work. But because it is seemingly contradictory, conceptual beings like us and deluded beings like, that's impossible, man, I don't understand. And we're stuck thinking that things are real and completely set. So why is this? So we've seen the positive content. Why is this emancipatory? Why is this therapeutic, right? Is number one, we see that things don't have to be the way they are. They can be anything. So rather than being a victim where I'm plopped into this world, thrown in this world, plop, oh my God, I don't understand things. Everything's separate from me. Everything's against me. The whole world's against me. Why me? Oh my God, why did this happen to me? It's not that way at all. Everything is one immanent system that's completely plastic and completely flexible and creatable once I understand the rules. Once I know the rules of the matrix, I know how to affect the change within it, right? Once, this is the key. This is how it can be emancipatory. Why is it therapeutic? Well, of course, in the end, the only reason we're doing this work is to solve our suffering, not to write philosophy papers or to come up with cool analogies or something. But actually, why we're getting this is because in a very direct way, I am aging, I am suffering, I am getting sick, I am falling apart, I am dying, and I'm reincarnating again and again in this situation because I don't understand this, because I don't understand the two truths of how emptiness allows for the creation of everything and makes anything possible. Because I don't see this, I see its absolute opposite, which is things aren't coming from me, they're coming at me without my choice. That it's just realities like this. I wake up all day, getting punched in the face by the world, and then I die, and it's all, you know, it's like some stupid video game, right? Because I don't see this, I'm stuck in this. This is what I have to submit myself to as a big victim, right? Once I get this, I'm in the driver's seat. I see that this is all projection of my mind. It's machinic, and I can understand how I can kind of back engineer it, so to speak. So what's interesting is Joe Deleuze, my favorite philosophers, wrote this book on Francis Bacon, that famous painter you've ever seen in the 40s and 50s that wrote very disturbing art. But he was talking to this one French painter, I can't remember, who told him an interesting thing. He said, as an artist, when you have a blank canvas, the canvas is never white. Like you're a painter, you're a famous painter. Okay, Matthew, we're commissioning you to draw a painting for this big museum. Okay, I sit down, I got the white canvas. This artist told Jodelis, it's in the book, the canvas is always black. In other words, what is it black? In other words, it's filled with possibilities. It's filled with all the paintings I've ever done before, all the ones I might do in the future, everyone else's painting, all the other artists that I know, what they've done. Like when I approach something, I see it is full to the brim with possibilities. So that absence is a fullness. You see, it's kind of interesting. And so the luminous quality of this is, how is this cashing out in my experience? How am I actually creating with this? I am a creator. My life is a creation at any given moment. This, everything I see is coming out of nothing, out of my mind being created. Everything is a virtual creation. Everything is a work of art. So you see, this is Tantra. Just this. Whether you're a tantric Buddhist or not, you just going about your life, hopping on the bus to go pay your car insurance and going to whatever, IGA to pick up some cucumbers, that itself is creation. It is the creation of your life, like a movie, as a gigantic computer program, whatever you want to have it, or a beautiful canvas that you're working on. So, and because it's the product of the mind, it's just made out of pure light. There's nothing substantial to it. It is just a virtual creation everywhere and nowhere, held together by nothing. As Nietzsche said, a tightrope where it's not attached on either end that you're walking over, right? It's just a product of light. It's just the luminous product of the mind. Anyway, that's 15 minutes. I could keep going, but I think at a certain point, I should stop. So let's just stop here at this question. But that's, I hope that for my dear friend that asked that question, I hope that answers why emptiness as an absence can be seen as a fullness, how it can be seen as luminous, emancipatory, and therapeutic. And so Tantra, which means continuity, right? Continuity of the mind. Basically, this is a situation that we are in. This is the positive potential that we have to become artists in our own life. So I can see myself as Matthew Richards going to work with COVID, with Air Canada and all the problems I have in my life, or I can be Vajrayani or Green Tara or Manjushri or anything else. In the end, it's all a beautiful story. Okay, so let's dedicate this for the enlightenment, awakening of all sentient beings. Okay, thank you so much. Let me just press stop here.